Hello everyone. Today we are back with another installment of Best Practices with Pluto LMS. My name is JC Bonici, and today on the 8th of September 2021 we're going to look at all the forms of assessment on Pluto. So the agenda for today, what we're going to be looking at is the assignment tool. We're also going to take a look at the quiz tool, H5P assessments, certification, and how grades are captured in the end. And we'll also do a Q&A session right at the end where I'll get to all your questions. So first up, we have the assignment tool. So there are two forms of submission in terms of online text. This could be like an essay or a word counted submission of text. And then a file submission, so that could be a file that you want the end user to download and re-upload, or a file that they must construct of their own and re-upload. This could be in the form of a video, a image, a PDF, or a voice recording even. So, and you can combine the both and have an online text and a file submission present. So, to add an assignment, you would first need to go into the course, click on Edit Course Material, and once you are in editing mode, under the relevant topic, you would go to Add Course Content, and you would choose the assignment tool from the list of activities. What you'll then be taken to is this page over here, where you'll be able to give your assignment a name. You'll also be able to describe what your assignment's about and what you are asking. You can add a video, you could add text there, whatever your assignment is about. And you can also add an additional file or files. So if you want the end user to download a file, maybe this is a template that they need to construct their answer on, you can go ahead and do that. You can also maybe have the description and question type in that file. So that's what you're looking at there. Then if you were to scroll down, you can decide on the availability of the submission, whether there's a cutoff date, whether you'd like to be reminded of a specific grade time. You can also decide here on the submission type, whether it be a file submission. In this case, you can choose a maximum number of files, a submission size, as well as what type of files are accepted. And if you leave this blank, then all of the files types that we accept on Pluto will be allowed. Of course, you can also have an online text, and in this case, you can choose a word limit and enable that too. And as I did mention earlier, you can combine the two and have those both as a submission. Then if I were to scroll down, there are a few default settings that you'll be familiar with from some other talks, but the grade one is quite important to this one. This is where you'll be able to decide on a maximum grade for this particular assignment. If you set up categories in the gradebook, you'll be able to categorize this. You'll also be able to decide on what is the pass grade. In this case, I've got 50%. And you can also decide on blind grading. So in other words, will the instructor of this course be able to see who the end user is when they have their submission? If you select blind grading, then of course you won't be able to see the username or any of that when grading, which can be useful in some certain situations where you want to remove bias and things like that. So once you've got your assignment set up, what you'll see is this page, little summary. You'll see how many participants in your course, how many have submitted it yet, how many needs grading. So this next part, we're going to take a look at the end user. So the end user logs on, they'll see the description of the assignment. If there are files to download, I'll be able to download them over here. And I'll see that my submission status is there hasn't been an attempt, and I can go and add a submission. For this particular assignment, I only needed to submit a file. So I have done that in the form of a PDF, and I've gone and saved changes. What I'll then see is my submission status. As the end user, I can see my file over there. I can also edit or remove the submission. If you set up availability, it will let me know that they'll let me know the date that I can submit to over here. It'll also let me know how much time is remaining to submit as the end user over here if I selected an availability. But for this example, I did not. So I've submitted my PDF for marking. I'm going back to the instructor's view over here. And as I can see, there's been a submission and it needs graded. I can set up notifications as the instructor for submissions that need grading, but we'll go into that in another webinar series based on notifications. But for now, what I'm going to go do is I'm going to click on View All Submissions. And I'll be taken to this page where all the submissions will show up for this assignment. For this particular assignment, there's just one, and course in general, there's only one participant. So that's what I'm looking at now. I can see the person's last name. I can see that it's been submitted for grading. I can go and edit the submission if I wanted to. I can see the file. And what I can also do is lock submissions. So the user will then not be able to remove their submission. And that helps as well if, you want to lock something ahead of time. Maybe the availability hasn't run out, but you want to lock it. It does give you a few other options over there. In terms of grade, what you'll be able to also do is you can prevent submission changes. You can edit the submission and remove the submission. And if I were to go to the next slide over here, I've added a comment on the submission, and I can also see what I can do with the selected. So I can, as I mentioned earlier, either lock or unlock the submissions. I can go and download the selected submissions. I can also send feedback files to the selected. And then down below, I have some further options in terms of quick grading, showing only active enrollments, and downloading the submissions in the folders if I want to. But for now, what we're going to actually click on is grade, because we want to grade this particular assignment. What's really nice about the assignment tool is it comes with an online grader, so you won't necessarily need to download any submissions. You can simply view them on Pluto via this view over here. What you can do is go to different pages. You have a variety of marking effects over here, and I'll show you what they can look like in the next slide. And I'll also take you through what this all means, but basically what I'll be able to do is give a grade to this person, and I can also give some feedback. While I'm marking, I have access to the squiggle tool. I can, add ticks and crosses, and it also gives you a bunch of shapes that you can mark this tool with. As I mentioned, I've given this person a grade. I've also given them some feedback. And then if I were to scroll down, what I can also do is add an additional file or feedback file. This might be the answer or rubric or anything that you want the end user to have once they have submitted and once you've graded. And of course, I can save the changes. I can go to the next user and also download the user's assignment from this view if I want to. There are a bunch of different tools for you to use in this view. So once I've graded the assignment, as you can see here, the grade shows up. I've got the feedback comments, the annotated PDF. If I were to just scroll to the left, or right rather, I'd see the feedback files as well as the final grade. So this is once again this instructor's view. And if I were to go back to the end user's view, they've now received an email or whatever the notification preferences may be that the assignment has been marked. I'll be able to go as the end user back to my assignment. I can now see that the assignment has now been graded. I can still edit the submissions and remove the submissions because earlier, remember, we didn't lock anything. We didn't change any of those settings, and we don't have an availability date on this particular assignment. What I can also go and have a look at is, so this screen would be if I was scrolled all the way to the top, that's my submission status. And if I were to scroll down as the end user, I can see feedback on my particular assignment that's been submitted. And there I will see my comments, have access to my annotated PDF, the feedback files, as well as the grade. And if I were to click on the annotated PDF, what I will then see is the marked PDF, and I can see all the comments that have been made with the little marking assignment tool and all the squiggles, ticks. I can know where I've gone wrong. So the second type of assessments we have on Pluto LMS is the native quiz tool. And there are a variety of different options you can choose from when creating your quiz. In terms of question types, it could be a multiple choice question, a true or false. You also have a matching option, as well as drag and drop into text and drag and drop onto image. And we'll go through each of these and show you how they work inside Pluto. When setting up your quiz tool, think of it as two instances. The first instance, you are setting up the quiz, and the second instance, you are adding questions and constructing your quiz. And we'll take you through both instances. The first one is setting up your quiz or creating the quiz shell. And in order to do that, you would need to be in editing mode, and under the relevant topic, you'll go and add course content, and you'll select the quiz tool from the list of content authoring tools available to you over there. What you'll be then taken to is where you'll be able to give the quiz a name. You'll also be able to decide on the timing of the quiz and if there's a different time limit and what to do with those submissions that are open once the time has expired. When you scroll down and you look at the other options, you'll be able to once again decide on a grade to pass and a category for this quiz, and whether or not extra attempts are allowed. For this specific example, we're setting it to unlimited. You also can choose the different type of question behavior. So are the questions shuffled within the quiz? Or shuffle, whether the questions are shuffled and if each attempt builds on the last. So if you have unlimited attempts, will each attempt past the first one build on the last attempt? You also have a bunch of different review options that you can select from, whether this be during the attempt, immediately after the attempt, later while the quiz is still open. And if you have selected that the quiz closes at a specific time, you can also, there's also an option for the end user to be able to go see their quiz answers and specific /general/overall feedback. So what are the differences between those three feedbacks? Well, your overall feedback is going to be based on how you did overall in the quiz. So if there are numerous question types, maybe there are 2 multiple choice questions, a true or false, and you get 3 all correct, your overall feedback will be based on how many you got correct, and then you'll get that feedback. Your specific feedback is on each question, depending on how you answered it, if you got it right or wrong. That's the type of feedback the end user will receive. And then general feedback is no matter if the person got it right or wrong, the end user, they'll receive feedback that is general. So everyone in the quiz will receive that feedback, in other words. And then, yeah, there's some other types for you. If you were to scroll down, you can also decide on extra attempts, or yeah, if you would like extra attempt restrictions on attempts and overall feedback too. So just to open up your extra restrictions on attempts, I'll go into this more detail, but you can require a password. You can have a safety browser security installed. You can also allow quiz to be attempted offline using the mobile app, and you can also set up webcam proctoring, but we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. And then over here, you'll be able to select overall feedback. So this is based on how the person does overall in the quiz with all the question types. And then scrolling down, you have some other settings that you are familiar with and we have gone through in some other webinars, and as well as taking a look in some future webinars. So that is setting up the shell of the quiz. Once you have set it up, you'll notice over here, you can see that no questions have been added yet. In order to do that, you would click on Edit Quiz. What you'll be taken to is this page, and if you were to click on Add, you can either select from a question bank, or you can go a new question, which is what I'm selecting now. Over here, you get the 5 different types of questions you can add. For this one, we are adding a multiple choice question. So when adding a multiple choice question, you'll be able to give it a question name. You'll be able to give the question a text, or text to the question rather. You can also decide on the default points. For now, I'm just going to leave that as 1. If I were to scroll down, here is where I can input general feedback. So no matter what the answer is, the user will receive this feedback. I can also go decide if this specific multiple choice question has multiple answers, or if it's only one, if I would like to shuffle the choices within the question, and how I would like to number the choices. In this case, A, B, and C. And if I scroll down to the answer section, choice 1, I've given it an answer and some specific feedback. In choice 2, answer specific feedback. Choice 3, same. All of these choices aren't the correct choice. That's why grade is selected to none. If I were to go scroll down to choice 4, this is the answer for the multiple choice question, and I've selected the grade as 100% over there, as you can see. Scrolling further down, you can give some combined feedback. This would be if if the answer was partially correct, this is if there are more than 1 answers in this multiple choice question and the user gets 1 right and 1 wrong, you can give partially correct feedback too. Then scrolling down, I can also decide if I want to add a penalty for each multiple try, and I can also decide whether or not I want to give hints when the person has answered. Once I clicked on Save Changes, what you'll see is the question that I've created and a little preview. Over here, I can delete the question. I can also preview the question using this magnifying glass over here. What I've done is clicked on the magnifying glass, and over here I can see my question laid out. I can also fill in the correct answers. I can submit it if I want to. And I can also build on my attempt options over here and change some of these settings for feedback and all of those type of things, and update these display options. So that was adding a multiple choice question. Now we're going to go ahead and add a true and false question. So what I've done is I've given this question a name, I've added the text, and I've added some general feedback. Once again, no matter what, if they answer this question as true or as false, they will receive the general feedback. Down below, I've selected the correct answer as true, and I've given some feedback for whether or not they select true or false. Then once I've set that up, I can save changes and my true or false question has been added to the list. So next, what I'm going to be doing is adding a matching question. So matching question, once again, I'm going to give it a question name. I'm going to give it a question text. The best Pluto LMS features are used for. Then some general feedback. And then over here, what I'll be doing is linking the question to the answer. And for this specific type, what I'll need to do is have 2 questions and 3 answers. And once I have set all of those in place, I will then, once again, I can add combined feedback or multiple tries. I can go save changes, and my matching question will be saved. We'll go into what each question looks like from the end user towards the end. Next is a drag and drop into text. What this looks like is what I've done at the top. You'll write your question text out. Down below, I can give it some general feedback once again. And then over here, what this will allow you to do is select the answer. We're not going to worry about group settings for now, but I've selected the answer, and up here I've got all my choices. And what I've done in the brackets, as you can see, is I've linked the choices to the questions. So we have all our questions over here, our text, and we have all of our answers over here. And we've selected shuffle in this case. This will become more clear once we demonstrate the question. But I can add combined feedback, multiple tries, if I want to. That is available for me over there once again. I've saved my question. It's been added to the quiz. And the last question type is drag and drop onto image. So in order to set this up, what you're going to want to do is select the question text. In this case, it's match the text with the animals on the picture. I've gone and uploaded my picture. As you can see, it has a bunch of animals on it over there. And over here, what I'm doing now is I want text to be dragged onto the picture. You can, of course, have images. What that would look like in this case is you would upload an image of an octopus or whale, whatever. But this time we are just using text. So I have added draggable text over here, and I've added the text that I want to be draggable. In this case, it is whale. If I were to scroll down, I have selected the rest of the animals that I want to be dragged upon. And over here, this is where you decide on the drop zones. So what I'll be able to do is select my draggable item. In this case, it is the draggable text that I've inputted. So if I were to just go back a slide, it would be over here. This is what I'm inputting, whale. And then I just got to define my text once again, and it's going to be the same thing. So in this case, I've got my text, my draggable item, which is my text, whale, and it translates to the same thing. So I've got all my drop zones filled out. And then if I were to scroll back up, what I will then notice is my text drop zones are at the bottom. And what I'll be able to do is drag those drop zones or boxes onto the image. And what that will do is if I scroll down, it will automatically place those text boxes appropriately onto the system, so that once the end user drags these texts, the question knows if it's correct or not. So it will automatically place all these little values in for you so that once the text has been dragged onto the image, it knows exactly how to record it. Then once again, you know how to, you can add combined feedback and multiple tries if you wanted to. So now what I've done is I have set up 5 questions, all of different types in my quiz. What you can do is you can have your questions come up all on one page, or you can add page breakers that would be similar to what I've done over here, where these 3 questions will be on page 1 and these 2 questions will be on page 2. If you want them all to be on each question to be on its own page, you can click on repaginate, and what that will do is it will add a breaker in between each question and they will appear on each on a new page. Or to just go back a slide, what you can notice as well is I've changed all the default marks. Maybe I want question 1.1 to actually be out of 2 and not 1. Or maybe I want 1.4 to be out of 4 and not 1. In this case, I've gone and added each question type as 4, and what that has done is it's translated it to a total points out of 20 and not 5. And what this maximum grade will do is it will translate this figure from 20 to 100. So if I were to, for instance, go and get 3 questions completely right, so 12 out of 20, which is 60%, I have now got 12 out of 20, 60%. What this maximum grade will do is translate that 12 out of 20 to 100. So what it will actually be is 60 out of 100, and you will retain that 60%. Just a little bit on the maximum grade, but this will all be explained in greater detail in the gradebook webinar coming up. So what I've done now is I've hit the preview button. Once again, you can click on each individual question and preview it, as well as check the attempt options and display options and change those again too. So now that we've got all our questions answered, we're going to go and finalize the quiz. We've added some page breakers. We've decided on the marks that we want to award per question. We've decided on the total points and the maximum grade. Of course, I can shuffle these questions if I want to. In this case, I would like them to go in this order. But there is the option where you can shuffle the quiz around. And once again, just to let you know, you can preview all the questions and decide on the attempt options and display options if you want to. So the quiz has been finalized. Now I can see that it can be attempted. What I can also go and do is if I wanted to edit any of the settings, I can click on the gear icon, the edit settings over here. This will take you to the first instance of settings. So otherwise, while we were setting up the quiz, what I can also do is preview the quiz in its finality. I can edit the quiz, which will take me to the list of questions or the second instance. I'll also be able to see the results and see the question logs and things like that too. So let's go have a look at what it looks like from the end user's point of view. So I am a student that has navigated to this quiz. I will now like to attempt it. So I've clicked on attempt now. Well, the first 3 questions have shown up on the first page, just as I've set it out. What I've gone and done is I've selected my choices. You can see the multiple choice question up above, the true or false question over here. This is the matching question where I'll be able to select one of the answers from the drop-down menu over here. As you remember, there were 3 answers, but only 2 questions. So that's what that looks like. You'll also notice that it gives the end user how much of the how much this question is out of, and You can see that these 3 questions are on the first page. Once I've answered the questions, I can navigate to the second page. Here's my drag and drop onto text question that I've gone, and the answers were over here, and I dragged them to the text. And I've also gone and drag and dropped my my text onto images. And of course, these text boxes could have been images. And as you see, I got a couple wrong over here. So I clicked on finished attempt. It will tell me the status of my quiz, and then I'll be able to either return to the attempt and answer any unsaved questions, or I'll be able to go submit all and finish. What it will take me to is this page where it will show me what I did out of points. It's showing me the grade out of 100. So that's the maximum grade that the quiz has been translated to. I also get my general feedback over here, which is not good because I didn't do very well in this particular quiz. I can also get my specific feedback as well as my general feedback. So this is overall feedback up the top. This is specific feedback over here, and this is general feedback over here, as well as the correct answer. I got these 2 correct. Over here, I got this one incorrect. It gives me the correct answer down below, and lets me know this information. Also down below, I didn't do so well over there. And then I can see a summary of my attempt. I can get the feedback. No more attempts are allowed in the specific quiz. Wasn't unlimited. I actually only selected that you may attempt the quiz 1. And yeah, as you can see, I get my overall feedback and my final grade for the quiz. So, what happens when you want to edit a quiz but it's been attempted? Very great question that often pops up. So in order to edit a quiz while it's live, you'll be able to once again click on that gear icon, and as I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to go to edit quiz, and you'll get into this screen that you're familiar with. What you can do is edit questions. So if there's spelling mistakes in the question, what you can do is edit the question via this gearbox, and it'll take you to the specific question. What you will notice is I can no longer add any questions or remove any questions. And that is because the quiz has been attempted. Adding a question or removing a question would deteriorate the integrity of this quiz. So which is obvious. You don't want to disrupt the integrity of a quiz once it has been attempted. So there are a few ways around this. The first way is if you were to click on results, what you will get is you will be able to view the enrolled users or any user that has attempted this quiz. We'll be able to show the report, and if I were to scroll down, what I will see is the attempt by the user, and I can also get a graph at all the users and how they're doing in my quiz. What I can do is I can remove this attempt. So what that would comprise of is selecting the attempt and then deleting the selected attempt. And what that will do is make the quiz you're able to then add and remove questions and edit the quiz as you might want to. But what happens if many users have attempted this quiz and you don't want to delete any selected attempts, but you do want to add a question, but you also want to retain all the marks of this quiz? Well, there is a workaround for that. In order to do that, what I've done is the original quiz over there is called quiz 1. I've gone ahead and duplicated it. With my duplicated, now I've got 2 copies. the original copy and my quiz 1 copy over there. What I've gone and the original quiz, I will go and hide it. So no end user will be able to access the original quiz, but the grades are retained from those users who have attempted it. And then finally, once the version has been hidden from students, I'll go and rename the copied quiz to quiz 1. And this way, what will happen is all the grades of my original quiz have been retained, and any new students that are attempting this quiz 1 will have the updated version with whichever questions you have added and removed. Of course, you will just need to change some of your activity completion settings to reflect this new quiz and not the old quiz. And yeah, so that is how to set up a quiz, how to preview a quiz, and also how to edit a quiz once it's live. Let's have a look at the anti-cheating module. So what that was is extra attempts on quizzes, or extra restrictions on attempts rather. As I mentioned earlier, you can require a password. So yeah, you can select on a password. So once the person has needed to have a second attempt, they have to input a password. You can also allow a quiz to be attempted offline using the mobile app, which we mentioned earlier. And you can also add a safe exam browser. What does that look like? So you would go and select require the use of safe exam browser. What that would then require is you to go and download a file and have it selected so that your users would have to download it too. And in order for them to in order for them to attempt this quiz, they will have to have the Safe Exam browser installed on their computer. And so it won't let them attempt the quiz unless they have this installed. We do have a very good support documentation, or good support doc on how to do this. So in terms of the end user, they will not be able to, like I mentioned earlier, they won't be able to attempt the question without, or the quiz rather, without the Safe Exam browser installed. They will also not be able to input anything in the URL or search field. They can't go back and forth. That navigation has been disabled. They won't be able to close the Safe Exam browser without submitting the test. They cannot switch to other applications, and shortcut keys as well as the clipboard is cleared and disabled. You can also unallow spell checking and dictionary, but that is optional if you want to do that. So that is your Safe Exam browser and how it works. There is also a webcam identity validation or webcam proctoring tool that you would select. It would say must be acknowledged before the starting an attempt. And what that'll look like is from the end user, once they click on attempt quiz now, there'll be a prompt to start their camera. They'll be taken to a screen that they'll agree with the validation progress, also see a preview of themselves, and they'll be able to start the attempt. Once the quiz has been taken, this is back to the instructor's view. They'll be able to view the proctoring report. And what that will look like is they'll be able to see the student example picture as well as the captured pictures during the attempt, and they'll be able to validate that that is indeed the student, the same student that is taking the quiz. Your next type of assessment is via interactive content, or H5P. You have a number of different selections to choose from, or content types, whether it be a quiz, just a multiple choice question, mark the words, we've got an essay over here, and so on. Even goes as far as an iframe embedder. You can attach a grade to these types of assessments, and I'll show you how. We have taken a look at H5P. We took a look at course presentations, the interactive video, as well as the branching scenario. And we will take a look at these different types of content in more detail in a future webinar. But for now, if you would like to use interactive content as an assessment tool, what you would do is you would go into editing mode. Under the topic that you would like to add the content, you would go add course content, and you would select interactive content from the list of content authoring tools. If you were to scroll down after you've set up your question, you will notice there's a grade section over here where you can add the grade to pass as well as the maximum grade. And you can also do the grade category. And from the end user's point of view, what I've done is I've just set up a multiple choice question. It's just one question, and I've gone and selected the answer as the end user, and I got the answer correct. And that is how you would set up or add assessment to your interactive content and make sure that it shows up in your grade book. Next is how to use the custom certificate tool. So once typically you want to give out, a certificate at the end of your course once assessment has taken place and the end user has achieved maybe a required score or required grade. So setting up your certificates is also a two-instance occurrence where you'll first want to go into editing mode and add your certificate. To do that, you would go to custom certificate and you would add it to your course. You'll be taken to a place where you can name your certificate, decide on various options, whether or not you would like to email the students, email the teachers. You can email others if you want to. There's also some verification options. You can also select how many minutes are required in a specific course, and you can set protections on the certificate. What you'll also want to do is probably restrict access to the certificate. In other words, you will use a grade and a course total so that only the students that have, in this case, passed may acquire the certificate. And if you want this restriction / certificate to be hidden for the users that haven't met the conditions yet, you would click the I over there on the left, and that would keep this hidden. So that's the first instance. You have now completed the certificate setup. What you're going to want to do now is create the actual certificate. So what you'll do is you'll click on the gear icon and you'll click on Edit Certificate. You'll also be able to edit the settings, but let's click on Edit Certificate. And what I'll be taken to is where I can either use the Pluto LMS template that I will now create, or I can load other templates. And what I've done over here is I've created a name. You can decide on the width and height. And then what you're going to want to do is add elements. For instance, what I've done over here is I've gone and added a background image. Once that's added, what I wanted to also add to my certificate is make sure that the course name is there. I can go and change the font and the size and the color. And once that's saved, what also I did was I added the student's name. So I've got a background image as an element. I've got the course name. I've also got a student name. What you're going to want to do then, once you've got all the elements that you want on your within your certificate, you'll go reposition elements, and you'll be taken to this page where all the elements that you have included will be in the left-hand side here, and you'll be able to drag them to where you want them displayed on your certificate. Once you've created your certificate, this is what your course will look like. You can see it's restricted. It's only available once a participant has achieved a required score and it is hidden otherwise. So what does the certificate look like to the end user? Well, once they have passed via the specific grade, they'll be able to view the certificate by navigating to it and clicking on View Certificate. As you can see, I've got my background images and my dynamic fields that give the course name and my name. And if I want to view these certificates, what I'll be able to do, apart from doing it on the course, is I can also download this. It could have been emailed to me, depending on the settings that the instructor chose. But I can also go into my profile and I can go into my certificates. And what that will show me is all the certificates that I have received, which is great. What you can also do as the course editor or the instructor or the teacher is go into the certificate and I will see all the recipients of the certificate. And what I can also do as the site admin is I can go into reports, into my 360 overview, and there is a certificate stats little block over there where I can see all the certificates for all my courses and who has been issued them. That is from the site admin role. So how are grades captured? Great question. If I were to take a look at my my course that I've constructed, and as the teacher, I were to click on grades, what I'll see is a grader report with all the students in the course, and I'll be able to see on each assignment how they did. I can see that a green mark is a pass and a red mark is a fail. And what I'll also be able to do is, if I went to setup, I would be able to customize my gradebook to reflect my marking style. So whether that be adjusting the weights, adding grade items manually, adding categories and shuffling these around to be in course categories. I can also change the grade settings as well as the preferences. That's more for the gradebook webinar. I'm not going to go too much into it now. But back to the screen, the grader report. One thing I didn't mention is that each tool that has a mark assigned to it will automatically be found in your gradebook. So you won't need to connect your assignment, your quiz, your interactive content to the gradebook. As you can see here, it came up automatically when I created those assignments. What I'll also be able to do here is I can click on that book and that will give me a user report. So this user, JC Bonici, I can see how they did in each of the activity types, as well as their grade and their feedback and percentage / contribution to the course total, which was what we could change in the setup. So other than a user report, I can also get a single view. And what that will allow me is to see the single view of the student once again. And from this view, what I can do is I can also override marks and feedback if I want to. But this will explain more in detail in a webinar coming up on the gradebook and all of the options and all of the customization you can do within the gradebook. But for now, it's important to note that each time you create an assignment, a quiz, or attach a grade to an interactive content piece, it will automatically reflect in your gradebook. What does this look like from the end user? I'm in my course now at the moment, and if I were to click on grades, what I will then see is I'll be taken to my gradebook and I'll see everything that I see in the user report. I will see over here as the end user. Just a sneak peek, you might want to change that user report and define what you want the end user to actually see. maybe you want to hide feedback or hide grades or hide the letters, you can actually go and customize how the end user report looks like to the end user. And this we will cover in a future webinar. One more piece of assessment that I didn't mention were forums. So you can create forums on Pluto LMS. There are a variety of different types of forums. And what you can do is attach grading to the forum, whether that be in the form of a whole forum grading or in the form of ratings. But this we will also cover in a future webinar titled User Communication. So we've reached the end of the webinar. If there are any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and we'll answer as many as possible. So the first question is, what is the main difference between the H5P quiz tool and the native quiz tool? That's a fantastic question. There are a number of differences. The first, the native quiz tool has the anti-cheating software, whereas the H5P will not have that. And there are some different functionalities, as in the quiz tool in the H5P. In the H5P integration has an essay question, whereas our native quiz tool at the moment does not. There are also different types of feedback that you can give to the different quizzes. But in the end, your H5P quiz tool is going to give you more interactive components, whereas the native quiz tool is more just a robust quiz tool that doesn't necessarily have the the interactive content instances, but it does have a few other functionalities in how it reflects to the grade book and how each question can have a separate grade. So yeah, there are a couple of differences. It does depend on your use case. Second question here is, can I create my own gradebook structure and weight differently to others? Yes, once again, you can do that. That is going to be via the setup. I'm just going to bring it up here again for you. So if I were to look at my course over here, and I were to go to grades, and I were to go to setup, in my setup over here, I can go ahead and weight things differently if I wanted to. I can also go and add manually grade items, so things that aren't parts of the assessment. And I can also add categories. And what that will do is allow me to move these assignments into a separate category and have a subtotal. And as you can see, you can also go ahead and move all of these around. What this will do is it won't affect the order in the course. It will just affect the order in the grade book and make it easier for yourself. And what you can then do is, if I were to go back to view in my grader report over here, this is where I will see the course. And then if I create categories, they will show up over here. And what I'll be able to do is minimize those categories, and I'll see subtotals and things like that. Great. Your next question, how do I bulk download all assignment submissions to my desktop? That's a great question. So we did take a look at what you can do from the assignment in terms of selecting those users and downloading all those assignments. But another way you can do it is by going into course admin, going to your course reports. And if you clicked up here on assignment submission report, you will see all the assignments that have been submitted, and I'm able to download all of those. And I can also have a quick way to go and show them. Cool. Another question here, can I restrict content based on my users' quiz results? Yes, you can. Over here, for example, if I wanted to restrict this interactive MCQ by a user's quiz results in the previous section, what I'd be able to do is, and this is covered in a later webinar where we go and take a deeper dive into conditional activity restrictions, as well as learning paths. But what you'll be able to do then is, depending on the grade, I can restrict this assignment based on the quiz's grade, and it must be either greater than or equal to a certain percentage, or less than equal to, or less than, sorry. And then I can hide and display this restriction if I want to. So that brings an end to this week's webinar. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. I hope that it was insightful, and we'll see you again soon